right, we want to welcome everybody to the MuddyGutt podcast. My guest today is no stranger here to the local Owensboro scene, Mr. DS Lloyd. Thank you for coming.
Well, thanks for having me out.
All right, DS, so Buell, Kentucky, is that right?
Yeah.
Is that where all the story starts, right there?
Yeah, Buell, Kentucky.
So,
Yeah.
how far is that away from us here?
Oh, shoot, let's see. Well, it's about 27 miles south of Owensboro.
Is that right?
Yeah, growing up, I had a Calhoun address, a Livermore phone number, and Owensboro water. So I guess I was at the epicenter of things there.
So I noticed it looked like you've done some traveling, Minnesota, Oklahoma. How did all that come about?
Well, Minnesota, I'd played with some guys around local, and then I met another fellow, was a friend of my mom's. Didn't know him that well, but he was touring. Introduced him to the drummer I was playing with at the time. Well, a little later on, he called the drummer. The drummer went on the road with him. And then after a while, they needed a keyboard player, and then I got a call. And I went on the road with them.
As a keyboard player?
Yeah. I played keyboards before I did bass.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. I will say this, though. I mean, I really like playing keyboards, but I like playing bass more. Because you can do so much with the bass guitar, a lot more than people think you can.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And as you can see, bass is the bacon of music.
It is. So let's get backtrack here a little bit.
Okay.
Some of your early musical influences, bands that kind of caught your attention, the first bands,
Well, I was lucky enough to have a cousin that was a teenager in the 60s and 70s. And she turned me on to Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin was a huge thing for me growing up. And, of course, after that, I found out how much of the blues that they took from.
Oh, yeah.
And it's debatable how much they took, who you ask. But, and the way they would get into a song and it could take you in so many different places. I loved that. Because you could start here and you might take 7 or 8 different turns before you get back to there.
Oh, yeah.
So music like that, a lot of progressive rock. I really got into that. But I tell you, what got me playing bass was the Sanford & Son theme. Believe it or not. Chuck Rainey. I loved that bass line on that. And years later, I got to meet him. I went to my first Victor Wooten camp. And it turned out he was one of the teachers there. And I didn't know he was the one that did it until I got there, And that got me playing bass. What got me playing music, period, was the first time I heard Edgar Winter's Frankenstein. Heard the keyboard part on that. That got me wanting to play. I've always liked music that's, kind of on the edge a little bit. Something that makes you think.
Oh, yeah. So, what was your first bass?
Well, I got my first bass after all my keyboards got stolen in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I had to move back, yeah.
And how old were you around this time?
I was 22.
Before you even started playing bass?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I started playing keys at 9. And, but my first bass, 22, 23, it got stolen. All my stuff got stolen. The insurance company didn't cover it on a clause because they said I was stealing my parents' homeowners. Which I said, well, because I made sure, I thought that I'd be covered if I was on the road. They said, well, if you was on the road, you would be. But since you had an apartment in Minneapolis, Minnesota, you weren't covered. So anyway, I moved back to Kentucky, and I bought a little Cort headless bass for $90 from a guy at the waterbed factory I was working at. And that was my first one.
Was there any local players when you first started playing bass that you kind of you know,
Well,
influenced by, or
I tell you, a guy that I always really admired, and was a really solid bass player, is Wesley Pryor. He used to be in the Green River Band years ago. But he was the first guy locally I ever saw play a bass. And he just put his heart and soul into it. You know, and I mean, it was obvious it was a cool thing to do by watching him.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
now, obviously you're very talented.
Oh, well, you're very kind. It's head injuries once again. It's.
I mean, have you always? I mean, has music always just come easy to you? Like me, I got to work. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work without a lot of results. And
Oh, I don't believe that. I've heard you. You're being modest.
but I mean,
Well, I tell you, it's odd. There was not music in my house growing up. Very seldom I ever heard radio. And how I came about playing music, Mom and Dad and I, we were going to my Aunt Ruby's, my mom's sisters. And I was 9 years old. And I was the only kid there. You know, we got there, and you know, a 9-year-old kid is bored or going to be rooting around looking for something to do. Well, anyway, I got looking around and went back in the old storeroom, back of the house, and I saw a little keyboard on the floor. It's one of those Magnus chord organs that had the air blow through reeds. And what was strange, that was one of the few times I can remember hearing music. On the way down there, Dad had the radio on, and that old song, The Great Speckled Bird, Roy Acuff was on. Well, anyway, we went down there, and I got messing with it, and I turned it on, and my mom heard me, and she ran in there and said, "Scotty, now you turn that off. You're going to tear it up." And Aunt Ruby's like, "Oh, Tootsie, leave him alone. He's not going to do anything to it." They went back in the other room, and I kept pecking around on it. And you know how you just get the feeling that somebody's standing behind you? Well, I was sitting there messing with that thing. And I looked up, and they were in a semicircle behind me looking down, and apparently I was playing the melody to that song. Da 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 ba da ba da da ba da da. So Mom and Dad said, you know, maybe we ought to get him one. So
breaking news, it all goes back to Roy Acuff.
Yep.
All of it starts with Roy Acuff. The Great Speckled Bird.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you think about it, yeah. So the next week they bought a little bit bigger one. It's a newer model, a little Magnus chord organ and 4 books. And at the end of the month, I could play everything in all 4 books. And they thought, well, maybe we ought to give him something a little bigger. And they bought a little Hammond spinning organ from, he's passing away now, but Alan Quinn used to be out at Thruston.
Oh, yeah.
World-class musician. Wow. And they bought a little Hammond spinning organ, and I played on that for a while. And I remember I wrote my very first song on that. It had some rhythms, and I put, you weren't supposed to mix 2 beats together, but I did. Push 2 buttons down, slow rock and a foxtrot, and it sounded like almost like a train shuffle. And there was a reed set that almost kind of like a whistle, so I did like a woo-woo with that, you know, and I started doing my little thing. It was my first writing thing.
That's awesome. So, obviously, it's a lot of instrumentals.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a couple things. I sang one it's got vocals that it wrote. It wrote with Rod. Time Won't Wait. And I sang on it, and you know, I've been wanting to get more into some singing. I'll tell you a song that I think is a great one to make a blues song out of. Remember You Are My Sunshine?
Oh, yeah.
How about this? You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. So please don't take my sunshine away. You know, that's an idea for one.
Sang a little bit like when you played bottom. I mean, obviously you got some vocal ability there. I mean, how just never have.
I always had good singers in the band.
Hey,
You know, so I let them sing. I would say back there.
That's
But I've been trying to work more stuff up and singing.
That's cool. That's cool. So you're 22, 23 years old, just switching over from keyboards. You've been out on the road a little bit with bands, and now you're playing this new instrument. So what was your first band when you first started? It was actually a bass player that you first really was jamming with.
Well, I tell you what, I sat and played by myself for a while, and it was funny. I didn't have a bass amp for quite a while when I first started. But actually, it was a good thing. You know, I would play my chin rested on the bass, or do the poor man's way. I had a walk-in closet, close the door on it, you know, and hear it that way. But it helped me really pick up a lot on the harmonics on the strings. I mean, if you look up and down a bass string or a guitar string, there's 128 fundamental harmonics on each string. So I got playing, and I would notice at different places I would pluck at or tap, I could get all these other melodies. So you can have one melody by fingering it and then just get all these little runs for where you tap at, you know, just hitting harmonics. I messed with that. First band, I had people trying to get me to go out and play, and I was like, I don't know. I got with some guys in Rumsey, Kentucky. There's a guy who used to be Clyde Andy. They called him Fried Clyde. He was a harp player, and he'd sang and everything. And I got with him for a little bit.
What style music was that?
Well, they were kind of southern rock, and then when I got in there with them, it became kind of southern swamp funk rock, something.
Yeah.
Kind of funkiness.
Kind of funked it up a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I've got a bad habit of, I've got chronic funkiness, I've been told. But anyway, played with for a little while, you know, and the first band I really, after I got in, that played quite a bit, I was in a band called Underground Vibe for a few years. And we played a lot of places and got to do some pretty cool things.
Did y'all like get out and about? Or?
Well, it was locally. I mean, we didn't go real far. Now, we played the Hoosier Lottery Row Show one time. Opened up for it at the Civic Center, I think it was, Evansville. I mean, you have to excuse me. My memory's about as long as my foot. But you'd think it'd be pretty good, but it's not. Anyway, but we played that, and I think it was sold out. Of course, they were there for the lottery show. But it was a neat experience. Everybody left the stage and left me out there, so I did a bass solo piece, you know.
That's cool.
And
what genre of music were you guys playing?
Well, now
everything.
we called it Kentucky Soul, but it was lead guitar player Heath Eric, lead singer and player. So he was doing everything on acoustic. And we had a keyboard player / sax player, Ted Peebler. And our first drummer was Dave Martin. But then later on we had Gary Smoot. And we did a lot of stuff. But it was soul, funk, folk, just it's a hodgepodge of a lot of different things in there. We were really heavily influenced by Tower Power, which we got to open for Tower Power, that band once.
That's always pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were heroes of mine. Yeah. Rhythm is such an amazing thing because if you think about it, you've got all these streams of time running concurrently. There'd be whole notes, half, quarter, eighth, 16th, 32nd, 64th, 128th, so on. And if you really just let the music play through you, you can jump from any of those in that space of time because they're all moving the same. There's just more on this line than there is on that line. But you start and you get to the end, same time.
That's what we call meeting back at the one. We can all go in different directions as long as we all meet back at the one.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's as long as everybody knows that. That's one of the things that makes it great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can thank James Brown for the one.
Yeah.
You know.
James.
Yeah. That's, I know, like anything funky. And once again, I'll go back to teaching a little bit, but when I tried to explain funk to someone, it's like, well, the best way I can do it, picture a bent wheel. It's almost egg-shaped. Now you start here, I mean, just regular straight rock, that wheel's perfect. But on funk, you hit the one because you hit the one right on, and you drag the 2 and the 3 to hit the 4 right, to hit the 1 right. So, I mean, you can pull that as slow as you want. Let's say, a little goofy at the front, but it worked out in there.
All right. Kind of this podcast, we're kind of geared towards the blues and the blues scene. And is there anything, as far first of all, what do you think about the scene here, as far as blues wise here locally?
There are some really good musicians around. I just wish there was more people, more clubs that were helping to boost. Now the Miller House, they're great. They're probably the biggest proponents of local blues.
In my opinion, and I said this on the last podcast, they're the only true blues venue we have.
Yeah, that's true. And really, I mean, it's a shame because the blues is a type of music that can speak to anybody. Anybody can understand the blues. I mean, because everybody's going to be sad and have the blues sometime in their life. It's not all yippee skippy. So it speaks to people. And I think if club owners around would give it a chance, they would find that they would do well inviting more blues into the area. I mean, there are several places in Evansville you can go play the blues. And, I mean, it's a good town. It really is. It's a good town, and there's some nice clubs there. But I guess the thing is, we just got to hang in there like a hair in a biscuit, just keep pushing until we get the blues around here.
That's been my philosophy all along. I've been playing blues here locally for around 10 years now, I guess, and just keep on putting it out there, and kind of like a slow rolling ball, it just picks up a little momentum. It obviously don't pick it up as fast as I wished it would, but we do have some great local talent here, and
oh
like
yeah.
you said, is there any local bands or people here locally that you are digging on,
Well, I tell you what, now the only time I've heard him was at Bob's Barbecue, but Willie Slack, I tell you what, that fella can wail on a microphone and a harmonica. He's got it, and he's definitely got blues.
Well,
He's got the blues. You,
I'm definitely partial towards Willie, that's for sure.
man, you, Bob Fisher, good friend of mine.
Let's talk about something else. I know David Martin and Margaret.
Yeah.
You guys play down there at the Three Monkeys.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what y'all got going on down there on Wednesday nights.
It's Wednesday nights. Well, it's kind of an open mic thing. The band will play a set or so, and you know, if you're a singer, you play an instrument, you know, and you know, you've got some songs that you're competent on and confident with, come on down and see us.
Well, let's talk about that house band a little bit. It's got a horn section, right? I mean, Margaret plays trumpet, but there's some other horn players, right?
Steve Hall plays saxophone, and on occasion, Andrew Lundy plays sax. And, of course, David Martin on drums. Steve Champion playing guitar and vocals. Josh Ryan, guitar, vocals, and keyboards.
Very talented.
Yes,
Josh
he is.
Ryan, if y'all don't know
Hey,
him,
Josh.
check him out. Very talented guy.
Yeah, and just as nice a person you ever want to meet. Easy going, but you know he does most of the singing, and you know myself, Juan Estavan on bass. That's my alias. And
Now, that's pure gold right there. Information you're not going to find anywhere else except by your own buddy podcast. Juan Estavan.
yeah,
There you go. In case you were wondering, there he is.
9 out of the 10 voices in my head say don't shoot, and the other one's in a language I don't speak, so we're all safe. Sorry about that. It's head injuries again.
So, you know, obviously, probably one of the only open mic that we got going on around here where you're going to be able to play with the horn section. So,
Oh yeah,
you know.
most definitely. And what we look at, and I know this has been my motto for a long time. I don't have to know it to play it. Now you start playing it. I mean, we'll give anything a shot down there. And but you know yourself, guys, that all you really got to do is listen. If you listen to everything going around you more than you do yourself, you can figure it out.
you know, and that's one thing that I find with people on blues jams or open mics, or everybody just wants to go jump in with both feet, and if you just lay back just a little bit, and listen to what everybody's doing, and just kind of feel your way into it.
Yeah.
Instead of just coming in, 110% right off the bat. I mean, there's your MuddyGutt, pure gold right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, if you're going to be a bull in a china shop,
Yeah,
you're not going to
yeah.
groove too well.
Yeah.
But, and you know, really and truthfully, if in a perfect world, if everybody's really listening to what's going on, if somebody makes a mistake, you can go with them.
Yeah.
And I've been in situations like that, and I tell you what, it's just magic. Well, I look at it like this. When I make a mistake, that's where my solo starts. When I get back to where I'm supposed to be, my solo has just ended. Now, some nights I solo my butt off, and some nights I don't solo at all. But, you know, hey, if you make a mistake, be sure you do it again this next time it comes around. If you do it enough, you can sell it, you know.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your buddy Rod Austin,
Oh,
a friend of mine, and about y'all's relationship and kind of how y'all got together and
yeah.
with him and what.
Well, Rod's a great guy. I mean, he's so talented in so many different things. He really is. Hello, Rod. And I'm a little older than him. We both went to McLean County High School, but I didn't really know him back then. I mean, I'd seen him every once in a while, pass him in the halls. I mean, he and his buddies were into punk and new wave back then. He was always into surf music. And when I was young, I was into metal and all that stuff and hard rock, you know, progressive rock. But it was years later. And he used to hear some underground vibe was playing around McLean County and different places. And after that broke up, he said, he said, DS, I think you got some really nice original stuff, but you don't have anybody to play music with you. He said, well, I don't know if I can play it or not. He said, but I'd be willing to give it a shot if you'd like me to. I said, sure. And I said, that'd be great. And I remember we was sitting at his granddad's old house where he lives at now around Calhoun. And we started working on some original stuff.
About how long ago was this?
Oh. Shoot, I guess it was about 6, 7, 8 years ago. I'm thinking, I might be wrong. Like I said, I've had a lot of head injuries, so once again, memory shoe. It was several years ago. And we worked up 3 originals. He said, he said, I think we got something good enough here. There's an open mic in Evansville at Doc's Showroom Lounge every Thursday night, it used to be. And Andrea Wirtz was the one that ran it. And he said, how'd you feel about us going up there and playing something? I said, for sure. We had it pretty smooth, and they gave you 3 songs. So we got up there and...
So it's just bass and drums?
Yeah, just bass and drums. Wasn't any vocals.
All right.
And we got there and they let us go first, We set our equipment up. And she was up there talking and she said, now, as everybody can see, we have a chalkboard here. It's just like for everybody to write your name or the name of your act down. So we'll know how to announce you and put it on the website. And Rod looked at me. He said, we don't have a name. Well, what are we going to call it? I said, I don't know. He said, well, what are we going to do? I said, well, I don't know. I said, I guess we're keep it simple. It's not like we're a couple of high-rise hillbillies. And she heard us. And she said, and first the high-rise hillbillies. We got thinking, that's not bad. Kind of like that, because it was a couple of hillbillies playing jazz, So it worked out all right. And, of course, me and my twisted way of thinking, I thought, I could see it now. Now, the Grateful Dead, their fans were called Deadheads. The band Fish, their fans were called Fish Heads. We could call ours Biscuit Heads. Because, like hot rice flour, high rise hillbillies, we spelt it the same way.
All right. Cool. So you and Rod, or 2-piece or whatever, and recently I got the privilege of seeing y'all play with Ryan Rigdon over at Lamascos in Evansville. Kind of getting a little bit about how that came about.
Well, now it was for a long time, it was just Rod and I. And we went over to play at it was a fundraiser around Christmas for the River Basin Blues Society. It was over at the Deerhead Cafe in Evansville. And we was going to play 2 or 3 songs. And we found out the band that was supposed to back everybody, I think the bass player's daughter was sick. And the drummer had to go too. And they looked at us and said, can you guys fill in for everybody else? I was like, well, okay. So we sat in behind a few people. And Ryan Rigdon was one of them. That was the first time we played together. And then passed across here and there. And he said, man, there's one thing. He said, I want to have you guys in my band. And a little bit of time passed, and it turned out that Ryan and Blind Dog Gatewood, hello Blind Dog, they were doing a thing every Tuesday night, Blues Tuesday, I think it was, at Lamascos. I mean, not Lamascos, the Boca in Evansville. And then Rod started doing it with them. And then they finally said, well, hey, how'd you like to do it? And the gig I had on Wednesday nights shut down. And I started going over playing with them. And from that, we were a 4-piece for a while. But then
Blind Dog.
yeah, Blind Dog, Ryan Rigdon, and
Now, that's a pretty formidable lineup right there. Blind Dog, Ryan, DS, and Rod.
I tell you what, it was a fun lineup. It really was. And Blind Dog and Ryan really complimented each other a lot. Really complimented each other a lot on guitar. It was fun. A lot of fun.
Now, you guys with Ryan, of course, kind of lean toward yourself towards the blues, pretty much a blues band, which everybody knows is kind of my cup of. Well, DS, I think we covered pretty much all of our bases here today, man. I appreciate you coming.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Really appreciate you coming out. Everybody's been the MuddyGutt podcast with Mr. DS Lloyd here. And y'all be looking for him out and about playing with the high-rise hillbillies and
Primal Roots.
Primal Roots and
Three Monkeys
be looking
house
for me,
band.
'cause
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna be hitting them shows too. So we'll see y'all out and about. Thank you.
See ya.